Thank you. Have a good night. Some people yeah. So tonight there was a new person in the wheelchair doing the wheelchair thing. And I was like, okay. You know, I say this every year, right? You know, as a TI, when they're going to hit you with a blitz. Right? So during the holidays, right, any holiday, particularly late, 4th of July, Christmas, you know, Veterans Day and so forth, your birthday, you know, your children's birthdays, what have you, because, you know, they know that you might probably go out, so they don't want you going out. They don't want you enjoying yourself. So anything that you have to enjoy yourself. For example, like I talk about, you know, watching those funny videos with what's his name? I don't know, I forgot the name of the video. The guy YouTube channel. But what he does, he trolls people. Yeah, when you know he's playing, like when they're streaming and they're playing like Call of Duty. You know, multiplayer, right? So he has like he has an audio mixer, and he'll sample people's voice, whatever it is that they're saying, and play it back so that he'll speed it up. And that is so funny. That shit is so funny, man. And I'm there laughing my ass off. Right? I'm laughing my ass off. And they don't like that shit. They hate to hear you having a good time, but to see you having a good time. So sometimes I'll watch something funny and just laugh just to piss them off. Because I know they hate it, right? You know, these people are sick. And like I said, you know, we're going to expose them. And I say we TIs and those who are out there trying to, you know, figure out what it is that these people are doing, how they're engaging in cognitive warfare, psychological operations. And if I can help them, if you as a TI can help them by exposing what it is that is being done to us, particularly on the psychological and technological side of it, you know, it's the more the better, right? In terms of exposing what it is that they've been doing. So like today, you know, going to mail out the form for my disability. You know, up until yesterday, they will send me subliminal message. You know, all these different. It's always the same shit. Like if you're planning to go somewhere, they say you just, you know, taking a trip to the mall, to the movies. They will always try to send you subliminal in order to try to keep you isolated and not leave the house. This is what they do. This is part of the coercive, the psychological aspect of the coercive persuasion program, the cognitive warfare program, and the neuro cognitive warfare program. You got to understand that. So today was a very, very hectic day in targeting, particularly the noise campaign. If you guys see and heard, that is what they do. And they do any and everything to deter you from enjoying yourself, doing the things that you enjoy, from learning. Number 32, KX S32 39. New York Predators Dept. Look at that. 634 623. Now you hear the noise campaign. Right? Now listen though, I want you to pay attention. Now you hear the fire truck, the noise campaign. Like I said, when I started adding in the description what it is that they do, how they do it, and the effect of what the detrimental effect that it has on us TIs. And like I said, but what these cult fanatics don't quite understand, that it also has a detrimental effect on them also. Right? And again, like I said, I'm going to prove it with the truth, with facts. Not with belief, not with my opinion, but with facts. With research, verifiable, factual evidence. Not lies, manipulation, and deception. Right? I'm not going to do that. Particularly, like I said, my people, black people, need to wake up and understand what's going on. Because it's already too late for the vast majority of us. But for those who want to understand, so that future generations can be taught the truth, can be taught how to avoid, how to fight back, and even go on the offensive at times, to put a stop to these aggression, because it is aggression and it is an attack. Okay, so we must understand that. There are those of us that are so selfish that because we think that, we have, our children are going to be fine. No, they're not. I don't care if you're a middle class black person. Why don't you, like I said, I always say this, why don't you go look and see what happens when black people pass on their wealth to the younger generation? To the younger generation, right? To their sons and daughters after they, during their will, after they pass on. See what happens. Go research it, you'll see. Within a decade, they're back in poverty. Right? And you see that trend within football and sports. Most athletes who make tens of millions of dollars throughout their career, within a decade, they're back in poverty. Are you telling me that's a coincidence? That is a programmed mindset to keep us in poverty. Okay? A decade is a long time. Okay? And the white supremacists are that patient. They are that patient. Like I said, I find it very funny, and not in a funny, joking way, but in a funny way in that, these people who are participating in this don't really truly understand that part of the experiment is on them too. To see how they can be radicalized, to see how also they can be entrapped, right? They don't quite get it, do they? Right? They don't quite get it. I hear you, New York President Department. Fuck you. They don't quite get how they also can be entrapped. Because I've already proven, we as TIs have already proven what they do to us is criminal. That those who engage in that behavior towards us, they behave in a criminal behavior. And it's a crime. And not a crime, multiple crimes committed against us TIs. Because you see, they have this delusion, this belief system that they're good people. But it isn't until you show them that no, you're not good people, you're just a bunch of criminals, believing that you're good people. that they start to understand the seriousness of what it is that they've been doing, how they themselves been manipulated. And I understand that, right? But they're so fanatical that they don't care. They don't care. You know, there's no self-awareness. There's no awareness of the things that's going on around them, and they're ignorant as shit. Right? And that's, you know, when it comes to people who have that sort of mindset, they're easy to manipulate by those in position of authority and power, by those who are crafty in terms of knowing how to use psychology against them and their religious beliefs against them. Right? And so, like I said, they don't really believe in their Bible, and they don't, you know, they'll say, you know, what it is they've been brought up to say, what they've learned in Sunday school to say, in Bible studies to say, right? But when you actually sit down and you actually look at what it is that they do, when you actually listen to them, when you see their action, then you say to yourself, well, you know, if they claim that they're followers of Christ, right, why do they behave and do the things as their follower of so-called Satan of the Bible? Now, mind you, Satan of the Bible is not as bad as their God, okay? If you want to talk about documented evidence against God and Satan, God is way worse. God is way worse. All right? Go look at how many passages in the Bible in which Satan is actually in. You know, yes, he's tempting Jesus. You know, yes, I should say he, but yes, Satan, because in their mind, Satan is a black woman with knowledge, right? That's in their mind. That's who Satan is. I keep saying, y'all go read the Temple of Eve. If they can, and these are white racist evangelicals, if they can write a book and other series of books that talks about that Satan, and that Satan is a black woman with knowledge, right? A seductress, very intelligent, very smart, conniving, right? That she gives man and woman knowledge, and that's a bad thing. You see, it's a bad thing in the minds of the European male because of the system which he came out of. So to actually go to another part of the world and to see that a different kind of woman is actually the one who is the keeper of knowledge. You know, that was a cultural and system shock to them. Right? There's a difference how Africans treat their women as opposed to how Europeans treat their women. There's also a difference how European Christians treat their women, because they treat their women just like, some of them, just like how white men treat their women. Right? But you have in the woman also, the European woman also trying to treat the European male as a woman. Right? Because she wants to be treated like a man. And when I say she wants to be treated like a man, I mean she wants you to be submissive to her. Right? But she don't want to be submissive to you. She wants you to always compromise for her. But she doesn't want to compromise for you. Right? She thinks she got a bigger penis in the bedroom than you. Right? All right? So there you go. She's trying to have you bend over and she do the fucking. That is the mindset. And it's a destructive mindset because it goes against her nature. It goes against the nature of women. I'm not saying women are supposed to be, submissive to the point where, particularly when it comes to intimacy, that the man is always the initiator. But we know a lot of women won't initiate, so men have to initiate. But I'm talking about the well-conditioned European female who don't like the idea of a man being the dominant one in the bedroom. Right? She wants to be the dominant one. And that's fine. Right? That's fine. If the man, but you got to meet men who want you to be the dominant one in the bedroom. And what kind of men are those? Right? This is why you see a lot of them are having situationships with bisexual men or gay men, right? And you know what that leads to? Go look at the statistics. See, and they don't like statistics. I like to do the whistle. I can whistle too, buddy. Right? So they don't quite understand what's being done. Oh yeah. So what do you guys see here tonight? A lot of great vehicles, right? A lot of great vehicles. Look. Okay. I was like 4 great vehicles in the row that just passed by. Right? So they, like I said, they don't quite understand what's being done. And then and again, they're being set up, they're being in a way that the programmers believe that no one is going to notice and no one's going to know. Right? They're paying the Sambos and Sambinas in our community to sabotage us. Right? We think that's not true. That's not factual. Okay? Because of our belief system, and that's very dangerous. That is very dangerous. Oh, anyway, by the way, I got a new pair of gloves today. All right, so you see, I always, like I said, sometimes I always have that foresight and insight to also be a step ahead of them. I forgot it by Pam, but I got a new pair of gloves that came today, and and this isn't to replace the one that they stole. I had ordered this a couple of days ago because the glove that I have now, it doesn't really it keeps my hands somewhat warm, but it's not like it's not those gloves that you can hold, like let's say if it's snowing, because it will get wet, right? So it doesn't keep your hand warm. I do have gloves that keep my hand warm, but they're too bulky. So this one, I tried it on. It's pretty good. Well, I said I tried it on. What the fuck are you using the sirens for? What, I can't try on a pair of gloves? Fuck out of here. All right, you see the intrusiveness? All right, the illegal surveillance. This is what they're doing. Yeah, I tried it on, and I try it on again, and I'm going to wear it. All right. Great vehicle. Now also, I want you to listen. Right, whenever a great vehicle pass by, you listen for a car horn, listen for a siren. It might be very subtle. You might have to put on headphones and turn the volume all the way up, but you'll hear it. Waiting for the bus. Where is the damn bus? Friday night. Yeah, so today, like I said, I had some extra PC parts around, my son's old CPU, his old graphics card, and I had other memory that I have. So I said, you know what? Let me build a new PC. I enjoy building PCs. It's one of my hobbies. It's one of the things that You know, sometimes when I order stuff and they sabotage it, kind of like, you know, I've learned not to get upset. You know, I've learned to just, you know what, after spending about 2-3 hours, if I can't figure this shit, I just leave it alone and come back the next day. If it doesn't work, then I know it's the parts that I bought, and it has happened before. It has happened before, right? And you know, cause they had I remember one time I had ordered a motherboard from Amazon, and they didn't even put it in a box. They just send a motherboard just like that, open, right, with no protective seal on it. You know, no protective seal to say, you know, yeah. And again, I wasn't going to put my CPU in there, right? If they had this into that motherboard and I turned on the power, it would have messed up my CPU. So I called Amazon. I told them, I said, I said, I don't ever want you guys to do this. This, particularly components like this, they should never send it out in the box that is in unsealed. They should never send it in that box, period. They should put it in another box, right, to protect it. And you know, and you know, I used to get on Amazon behind, man, because there's a lot of shit that, you know, I just didn't like and appreciate, particularly when it comes to electronics. You know, that you ask the people, and you know, I mean, like I said, some days I used to say, you know, when Amazon start using robots, it's gonna be good for their asses. You know, but you know, when I think about it, I'm just like, you know what, that's not a good thing. You know, too many people will be out of work. You know, and society is going to go down the drain. But that's what they want. You know, they thrive off of conflict, and it isn't the devil. They got you believing it's the devil, but it's the very same people that are controlling you. The Sambos and Sambinas, the predators on the New York Predator Department. You know, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, what have you. But the worst among them are the white racists. Understand that, because they are the ones that have been planning a race war that we want to all ignore. That we don't think that is happening, right? That we just want to go to church and pray that it isn't going to come. It's going to come, because you got to understand the mindset of these fanatical racist people, right? You got to understand that there isn't anything that they would not do if, just as Trump is in office, right? And how he, in his first term, how he was stacking the federal judicial branch, the state, that is, with judges. Okay, and we're talking about judges who have racist belief system, right? So he has stacked the courts, right, with conservative judges who are also racist. I have to make a distinction, because you have conservative judges who, you know, even though they're racist, they're not that racist, okay? But you have some that are very blatant in their racism. Like I talk about the young man who, you know, the maximum sentence for his crime was 5 years, and this judge gave him 15 years, right? How can you circumvent the rule of law, right, for your own interpretation? You know, because they always talk about interpreting the law, right? But these people do not interpret the law, right? What they do is that they create their own law, their own rules, and that's what they go by. You understand? So like I said, we need to start looking at the system for what it is, and we need to start paying attention to what it is that they're doing. Right? We can no longer be sleeping at the wheel talking about Jesus take the wheel. If that's how you feel and that's what you believe, well, Jesus is leading our asses off a cliff. Understand? Because shit ain't getting better; it's getting worse, and you must have to accept that reality. Right? It doesn't matter if you're driving a nice car or you having an apartment. Have you been listening and reading about what these white predator real estate agents have been doing? Stealing black people homes? Have you been paying attention? Apparently not, right? Apparently not. You know, what happened is that we as not we, but the Negropeans, as Franz Phantom said in his book, black skinned white man is that the Negropean believes, because he goes and he's educated in these white colleges and these white universities, that he is better than the other Negroes who are not that fortunate or that lucky. So he or she comes back with all of the psychological personality traits of the European. The Negropean male sees the Caucasian woman as a trophy, as something that he has achieved, right? That's something that ascends him into the world of whiteness. The Negropean believes that having a white man by her side is the epitome of love, right? Because she believes in her subconscious programming, because her Jesus is white, that the closer and the more intimate she is with a white man is the closer and more intimate she is with Jesus. All right, you understand? This is why when I was walking today, I talked about how they all use BCI and silent sound spectrum to send me messages. I walked by, there was a white dude turn around the corner, and then I said, in my mind, it goes, "Oh, Jesus." Right? You know what I'm saying? So they use these types sort of manipulation against us that we don't even know. And this is something that they can broadcast through wireless network, right? So I used to talk about EEG cloning, right? Emotional cloning, right? And how they can clone our emotions, right? Because, you know, every human being has emotions, and every emotion that we have operates at the same frequency, right? Our consciousness may operate at different frequencies, but our emotions, our taste, our smell, is at the same frequency. So when we taste something, that neuron that fires off in our brain to let us know that we have something in our mouth, whether it tastes sour, sweet, in between, what have you, whether it has a certain nasty taste, it is the same frequencies that each and every one of us in our brain, the neuron that fires off that signal, that electrical signal, operates all at the same frequency. So they can clone our emotions and broadcast happy emotions, or happy, I should say, the frequency in which we start to feel happy. Also the frequency in which we start to feel sad. I think I just saw a drone. That might have been a drone. Did you guys see that? I wasn't even looking at my phone, but I know my phone was pointing in that direction. You'll see like a light that just came down really, really fast. That's a drone. Okay? That is a drone. But yeah, that's what I talk about, right? You can go and you can actually read the scientific research papers, the documents on these things, right? And I love how they introduce that concept, particularly in the black community, and particularly amongst black women. And they talk about frequency, you in on my frequency, and this and that. And the only frequency they're talking about is money, monetary things. Okay? They're not talking about good character. They're not talking about being honest. They're not talking about being kind, being considerate. Everything has to do with money. Right? That's the frequency they talk about. The churches have poisoned their minds so much. The churches have poisoned their minds so much that they don't quite understand. That their behavior is against the total opposite of what they claim Jesus is all about. Right? So I was telling him, if Jesus is your Lord and Savior, why you won't marry a man that's an average earner, right? I tell them that all the time. They don't want to date men, hard-working men, but they claim they love Jesus. But Jesus was not a wealthy man, right? Jesus was not a wealthy man, but they'll tell you, if you don't make six figures, you can't. And these are the women in the churches. So how could they love Jesus, and how could they talk about his disciples when none of them were wealthy, but yet they won't even marry a hard-working man, right? So I always tell them, I say, well, do you believe what you say you believe, right? Do you believe in God's authority and God's law? And they'll say yes. And they'll say, well, okay, but who is the leader of your household? Well, I am. How are you leading your household? You can't be leading your household. If you call yourself a Christian and you're a woman, we know that is what? God, man, woman, and then the child. So how can you be before the man if you're a Christian? And you know, things like that, you got to observe within the religious mind of people, and you understand that it is the churches that are teaching them these things. The churches are teaching them something that's totally opposite of what they're supposed to teach them. And the reason why, because the churches benefit greatly from women. When the pastor wants to get a new jet or whatever, or he wants to build a bigger church, 90% of the offering that he gets is from women. You understand? So they have a vested interest in trying to destroy the relationship and the marriages of black men and black women, because they benefit the most. And one thing we know about these pastors is that they worship money more than anything else. Money is their God. If they can lock the church and not let anybody out of the church until they get $40,000-$50,000, money is their God, right? Because they will never ask God for money; they'll ask you. But you come to them with an issue, and they tell you got to ask God for money. We got to wake up and understand what's going on. We got to wake up and understand what's going on. I always say, the pastor's wife, his family, his children, they're going to be okay. It's the hard-working man and woman that's giving them their money that's going to continue to struggle and suffer.